Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call our board business meeting to order. Before we move forward, though, I do just have to recognize where the fire exits are. So in the back of the room, you can leave that way, or there's also another exit behind me to the left. So just be aware if there is a fire, where the exits are. Okay. So we have two different types of comments today. So first up, which is B on our agenda, we do have public comments that are specific to school start times. So the board invites community members to share their thoughts at a public comment session, which is right now, during the business meeting, and will be similar to our normal public comments. So if you would like to speak, I know we have some people that have signed up, but if there's someone here who would like to speak and they did not sign up, that is okay as well. We also had a few folks from the community that emailed, and Peter, Mary Caitlin, and I will be reading what they sent in to share with the public as well. And similar to our general public comments, we will give everyone 3 minutes. And also, where the max will hold if other people do come up is just 30 minutes. So 3 minutes for the speaker, 30 minutes total. And did I forget anything? I don't think so. Okay. So we have Rick Costanza up first. And when you are public speaking, there's a little button that you can press, and the green light should go on.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you all for this evening, for your time, for at least 3 minutes of it, and for your work for the community and the schools and students here. I am a parent here in the community of a proud graduate as well as a current sophomore. In addition to that, though, in my day work, I am the professor of education and chair of the Department of Education and Human Services at Monroe Community College, where we prepare future teachers. Part of that is studying the education system to understand what are the realities today that we face. And this is a current issue that's been coming up a lot over the years. My students study this regularly each semester. And the conclusions they come to on a regular basis that I support based on the research is there's not a lot of debate here, quite honestly, when it comes to what is best for students. That this issue, there's a reason why it's supported by the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Sleep Foundation, the Academy of Sleep Medicine. Each of these organizations recognizes that school start times for adolescents after 8:30 a.m. improves things for students. It improves academic performance. We see gains in particular first period classes go up. We see gains in attendance and tardiness. These gains themselves are disproportionate. We see them more readily with students from low socioeconomic status. Thus, some of our most potentially vulnerable students are seeing the most benefit from this. We see fewer reported symptoms of depression from students. We even see stuff like lower numbers of car crashes amongst teens when we implement these kind of things. But what I don't see is people are very much on the other side of this when it comes to what's best for students. We, of course, see impacts on families. We see impacts on the structure of schools, which points to the need to do this in a appropriate, thoughtful manner that does take into consideration the needs of families. But nonetheless, when we consider what is in the best interest of students, it seems very clear that moving start times for adolescents after 8:30 will benefit them in just about every domain that we want to look at. With that, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick. So Rick is actually the only one who signed up to speak this evening. Is there anybody else here that would like to share their thoughts or comments? And while you're coming up here, I did just want to mention, last month we did have a board workshop for folks that are here and listening at home, where we did have a presentation, and I would encourage folks to take a look because it did have a lot of information in terms of scenarios. Again, similar to what Rick said, you know, being thoughtful and thinking through many different things because we know that it's going to have an impact on a variety of things. So, and do you mind letting us know your name?
Sure. My name's Tanya Dugan. I am a Fairport parent. I have 2 kids at Martha Brown. I'm also the treasurer for the PTSA at Martha Brown.
Great. Whenever you're ready, and we'll start our timer.
So I hadn't planned to say anything because I didn't feel like I had a lot to contribute. But as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I just want to say, as a fellow parent with a child in middle school, I want to say that I think a lot of us are on board with this idea. We all understand, especially as our kids are getting older, why this is beneficial. But I also want to say that as a parent of a older student, we'd be really happy, and all the parents I know would be really happy to support the parents of the elementary students that this would affect. And what does that mean? Maybe we could volunteer to do early morning or after school care in a cafeteria kind of thing is one of the things I thought about. Like, I know childcare is going to be an issue. I know my kids have the opportunity to come early for breakfast. I work from home, so that wasn't an issue for me, but I thought it was really great for my friends that work full time that opportunity was there. So maybe in implementing this change, we could be creative in that thinking, you know, and maybe offer something for that after school gap for the elementary students that might have to finish sooner. So I just want to say, like, for those of us that support it, we are down with whatever we can do to make it happen, including, you know, understanding and loving on our families that this is a hardship for. And that I just think it's really amazing. I did watch the last meeting, and I was fascinated and so impressed with the amount of thought and work and time and the, you know, additional third-party company being brought into it, all of the things. Like, I'm so thrilled that this is my school district and that you guys are putting in that amount of effort and love on my kids. So, yeah, just wanted to share the love and say we're here to help making this happen any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else interested in sharing? Okay. So as I mentioned before, we did have 7 folks that did reach out via email that couldn't be here. So we thought that we would read some of the things that they wanted to share so that other folks in the community could hear it. We're not going to disclose names or specifics, but we will give a general gist of what we heard from a variety of people. And I am up first. So let's see here. Hello? Oh, I think it's okay now. School time shift is a fantastic idea. Currently, students in grades. It wasn't just me. Let's see here. Currently, students in grades 9 through 12 get to school at least 40 minutes prior to school starting. So bus driver pickup at elementary level school runs are on time and school ends 2 hours before sports start. Let's utilize this time in a better fashion so students are not as tired and have a shorter and more productive day. So I think what she was getting at here is that a lot of our students end school and then their sports or other activities don't often start until almost 4 p.m. So it does extend to the day. Another one, I recently watched the transportation presentation from your December workshop. Thank you for sharing those results. I wanted to pass along a view from a staff member. I was involved in the original planning 8 years ago, and that is a good thing to highlight as well, and disappointed we couldn't make it happen then. One thing that is important to elementary community is to have all buildings on the same schedule to facilitate collaboration and training. Is it possible for the board to go back and ask further analysis, putting all the elementary buildings into group 1? When we did have the workshop, it was a variety of groups, and I would say check it out. The middle school is in group 2 and FHS in group 3. It seems that scenario was not analyzed and might be a great choice if it isn't too expensive. I wasn't satisfied by their explanation for why that wasn't done.
I have the next 2. As a parent currently of an elementary school student, I've been meaning to write to you for some time now to ask about later start times for the junior high and high schoolers. So it was really quite wonderful to receive the message from the superintendent recently about that very question being taken up by the board. I was able to watch the entire discussion from the latest meeting, and I just wanted to say thank you. There are so many complexities to this issue, and to know that you all have not only been proactively working on it, but also considering all the possibilities, angles, and ways that a change in start times could change other things, it's an extremely encouraging thing. I appreciate your work, and I'm deeply grateful for your careful consideration of, well, everything. And then the second one, much shorter. A neighbor of mine expressed concern about the elementary bus stops in our neighborhood that already seem a little iffy safety-wise, and how that would look if it was dark at pickup. She suggested some might need to be changed, and indeed we've heard that as well from other things. And then even shorter one, I would personally love to see a time shift for a later high school start, especially with Minerva closing.
All right, and then I have the last two. So we have a parent of 3 students who also works in the medical field, who listened to the board workshop and was impressed by the focus of the discussion, moving from should we make this change to how can we make this happen. This individual wants this change for the greater good. The collective assumption is that our role as parents and educators is to make best choices for our children and prepare them for success. And we have solid research that proves later start times lead to better outcomes. The time for wondering whether or not we should do this has passed. This is one concrete, actionable step that has been proven to positively affect the mental health of teens, and we should not delay in making this change, but rather work hard to get it done as soon as possible. So the person goes on to mention some of the concerns that were raised during our workshop discussion, including increased bus runs that might have to happen or the need for drivers, and suggests that we look at decreasing ridership, the potential for some of our middle or high schoolers to walk if it's a later start time and they have more sunlight, as long as it's safe for them. Another obstacle that they mention is the decrease in after school time for students to attend clubs or get extra help from teachers. And they make suggestions about looking at how other districts have created solutions to those problems, because we know other districts in the area have done this. The individual respects the work we've done on behalf of our students and has faith that we will make the right decision to move late times or start times to later. And then the last person is a parent of a middle schooler and noted the later start time would be a hardship for their family. Right now, she can get her child on the bus before they leave for work and not be late for work. Also, the impact on lessons that the child has in the afternoon. Changing start times would interfere with our mornings and afternoons. It would cause difficulty for arrival at work daily and afternoon lesson schedules. They mentioned that they understand the need for sleep for high schoolers, but these kids are able to get themselves up into school, and they are truly responsible for themselves and need to be, and that they are responsible to get to bed at a reasonable time so they're rested for the next day, that this is something that they're going to have to learn as they go on to college, since college classes won't change in terms of sleep need. And working parents don't have the luxury of making their own hours. So this individual suggested please not changing start times.
Okay. And that is all we've heard so far via our public comment option and also through email. So I know that there's been some other vehicles put out for people to share their thoughts and concerns. And I think that moving forward, there will be lots more conversations. And we agree that just looking at, what we can do to make this change, accommodating for as many people as we can, but also knowing what is right for kids. Any other comments? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know we have discussion time for this later.
I was just gonna say that.
So just, so this isn't necessarily discussion, but I'm noticing that we've only heard from middle school and high school families, and I'm wondering if the headline and the subject of later start times, if we're not reaching or communicating clearly that it's also going to be earlier start times for elementary school students. I guess we did hear from the elementary staff member.
Yeah, there were some.
So just going forward in communications, that maybe we change our terminology to make sure we're expressing a change in start times, and
Yeah,
that
swap.
we're making sure everyone is aware so it doesn't feel like a surprise later on in the process.
Yeah, and just like Lisa said, later on, we are going to actually have a portion where we'll discuss this. So we are going to move forward.
Can I,
Oh.
super quick, just because we have a wonderful PTSA officer here, thank you for your work, but I wonder if we can also engage with them, with the PTAs and PTSAs at the different schools, just to get more I'm sure you're all over this, of course you
Yeah.
are. But just to get more, make sure to broaden that net, and that can especially get it to the elementary school parents, Lisa, that you
So
were talking about.
I met with the elementary the PTA executive board, was it Monday? And they're very excited and looking forward to adding and helping facilitate the communication per that comment.
Okay, so up next we have our 2023-24 Fall Scholar Athlete presentation.
Good evening and thanks everybody. Each season we do have a state award that's done by our State Public Athletic Association, and as you can read on the screen, for a team to receive that recognition, the team's average has to have a GPA for 75% of that roster must be greater than or equal to 90, and it's really gives me great pleasure to present these teams to the community. First, we have our fall cheer coached by Elaine McGurk, and you can see our all-county selections and the success that they had in terms of being Monroe County champions, Class A Section 5 champions, and also qualifying for the state championships where they received 3rd place. Just a fantastic season for them. Boys cross country coached by Ben Bulkley, and you can see the multiple levels of success that they had with their all Greater Rochester and all county selections. And do want to point out that Jake Pasalugo, not only was he a Section 5 Class A champion and a state qualifier, but he was also part of our overall team Section 5 Class A champion. And that doesn't happen very often, to have an individual champion and a team champion. So congrats to our boys cross country program. Girls cross country coached by Christy Moore. Again, you're going to see multiple athletes that really received some wonderful postseason accolades. And also congratulations to Ari Reebok. She was the Class A Section 5 champion, and this was also the 2nd year in a row that she achieved this. And that was just a tremendous honor. And also to Coach Moore for getting the Coaching Excellence Award by her Section 5 peers. Just a fantastic job. Our field hockey team, coached by Teresa Santa, you're going to see the postseason accolades for them, and also I'd like to highlight Taylor Frank, who was an all-Greater Rochester selection, and they had a wonderful season and were extremely competitive, and congratulations to all the work that our field hockey team did in representing Fairport. Our football program, coached by Mike Wayne, they had a very successful regular season and represented us with pride in the playoffs. And do want to point out the numerous all-county selections, and also congratulations to Sam Pucci, who was a first-team All-Greater Rochester selection. Up next is Terry Clark for our fall girls golf season. And you can see Harper Dittman really had a phenomenal year in terms of first-team All-County, but also winning the county championship, Monroe County Player of the Year, and a first-team All-Greater Rochester selection. And she's also a state qualifier, and she'll be competing in our state championships in June. So congratulations to Coach Clark and his girls golf team. Gymnastics, coached by Alicia Baum. You can see all the highlights of our student athletes and what they achieved. And really proud that they received the Section 5 Team Sportsmanship Award. And we will have numerous gymnasts competing at the state championships in March, and I'll have a finalized list right before we go, because we have had some students throughout Section 5 that may not be able to compete due to various logistics. Boys soccer, coached by Bill Teasdale. Congratulations to them on the AAA championship, and also to Coach Teasdale for winning the AAA Coach of the Year, and also all of our student athletes that receive postseason accolades, as well as our all-Greater Rochester team selections. Phenomenal season for our boys soccer program, and really happy with the work that they produced. Girls soccer, coached by Tom Natale. They were Section 5 champions in AAA, and also won the Western Regional Championship and made it to the New York State semifinals, and lost 1-0 to a perennial power from Section 9. And also congratulations to Coach Natale, who was AAA Coach of the Year. These coaching awards, they are voted on by peers, and it's really wonderful to see people getting recognized by their peers for their hard work. Next is our girls swimming and diving, Coach Mike Kennedy. Congratulations to all of his swimmers, and you can see that we had multiple individual Class A championships in terms of our 200 free relay, and we also had Kaylee Lawrence, who was a Section 5 50 free champion, as well as the swimmer of the year throughout Section 5 and all Greater Rochester. Looking forward to how the team produces next year. Congratulations to our girls swimmers. Girls tennis, coached by Coach Joe All. You'll be able to see that there were numerous student athletes that qualified for state qualifiers, and really want to commend Coach and our student athletes and the families for their support. There were some students that really had to make some things work in terms of the DC leadership trip that we do and getting back to compete in their competitions, and that's part of being a student athlete. There's a lot of conflicts. School does come first, and there are some creative solutions that we have to go through if we're going to be able to compete. So I do want to highlight that, and that's not going to be recorded in any of these reports, but I'm really fully aware that that happened. Next is boys volleyball, coached by John Odell, and you can see the numerous postseason accolades for our players, as well as the all Greater Rochester team selections. Section 5 champions and state champions in Division 1, and the #1 team in New York State. And was just a phenomenal season, and Coach was also the all Greater Rochester Coach of the Year. And this is also Coach Odell's 3rd state championship in his career at Fairport. That's pretty special, really special. We're very fortunate to have him, as well as all of our coaches. So congrats to the boys. And next up we have girls volleyball, coached by Trish Vergenzi. And they were also AAA champions in Section 5, Western Regional champions, and also they were also state champions. And they were voted the #1 team in New York State. Really a special time, and it was really just a humbling experience to be a part of, to be able to watch both teams, but also watch the families. We had several sets of siblings on the boys team and the girls team, and due to the time period, they were able to make both games, even though it was 45 minutes away. So it was really special and just humbling to be a part of. In closing, every single one of our fall teams was a fall scholar athlete. And in terms of the success, in terms of wins and losses, we had 6 teams win Section 5 championships, as well as the individual Section 5 champions, and then two teams win state championships. There's a lot that goes into a successful season. It's not just about the wins, but in this case, there was a lot of success in terms of the scoreboard, and really proud. And it was really humbling to see everything coming together at once. So definitely want to thank the board's support, and also want to thank Matt Stevens. There was a lot of travel arrangements that I had to do on my end, and just really easy to work with the business office in terms of finances. There's a lot of behind the scenes that go into reserving hotels, getting transportation, that type of thing, and it was a really smooth process. So thank you. Any questions?
I just wanted to quickly say thank you for all you're doing, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that these student athletes have to make a lot of choices and choose between activities and sports in classes, but I'm sure the same goes for all these coaches, who most of them are incredible teachers. Many of them I think we all know, so they too have to balance their work as a teacher, their job as a coach, or their work as a coach, and of course their families as well. So just thank them all for their incredible dedication.
Yep, thank you. Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Fritz. Next up, we are moving to approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting. Brian? Jan? All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Which brings us to our public comment that is normally on the agenda. And just a reminder again that I'll call the person to speak. Each person will have 3 minutes. And during public comments, just make sure that if you're speaking, be respectful. and don't include specific names of folks. So let's see here. I know we had one cancellation if you're looking at the agenda. And we have Bill Wynn. Yep, and it will turn green.
You've done this before.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you. You couldn't hear me, huh? I'm grateful. I'm Fairport resident and live on 54 Nobleman Court. I'm glad I could follow the athletic director here. I think it's the athletic director. And I just left the swim meet with our grandson who's on the varsity team, and he also he's in the volleyball program. So it's great to hear that. So congratulations to all of you. I'm here to talk about something else, though, the anti-racism curriculum project that I hope you're all familiar with, and I know Brett and Tanya are. And Brett and Tanya are also familiar with me, and I think Peter too, with some of my background before, speaking before the board. The rest of you may not know me as well. But starting in 2019, I addressed the board on an alleged dumping of kids back into the Rochester City School District issue, an article that was publicized. I reviewed the the district policies, and as part of this, I recommended that the district consider implementing Shane Wygant's at the fledgling anti-racism curriculum program at that time. This eventually resulted in training a year or two later with fourth grade teachers in 2020 and 20 to 21 on the curriculum, and it was introduced to students. This is a great first step, and I know this since my fourth grade granddaughter told me, fourth grade at the time, told me about what she had learned in class. So it was a great affirmation that there was a follow through. Since then, the district has been doing some great work regarding cultural diversity the past few years. I know you had a program with historical black colleges and universities last year on a field trip. And you also did a training last year on interrupting racist comments at school. So that's wonderful work. This morning when I started to put these notes together, I'm trying to make this quick, I wasn't aware how things are going to change pretty quickly because I had a meeting that was set up with Tanya this afternoon, your deputy superintendent, and then the Rochester Beacon article came out that hopefully most of you saw that. If you haven't seen that, it's going to speak to what I'm talking about today relative to the anti-racism curriculum project. In talking to Tanya, you're going to be doing another field trip to Philadelphia to learn about the history of the Black history in Philadelphia coming up. She's engaged with the curriculum project program with both Shane and the expanding program that's now affiliated with Coordinated Care Services. So they're doing some great work. She mentioned that Tanya did Latino Civil Rights in Rochester offering in terms of a program that is a possible add-on. They're also doing some great stuff on their own with Monroe County Inquiries Program, I believe it's called. And so it's a combination thing with the curriculum project as well as with Monroe County school system. And Tanya, as you're probably familiar with, is also the lead on the Equity Network program with the Monroe County School District. So that's just a wonderful connection to have as well. Another thing she mentioned was you're going to be offering in a couple of years an AP African American History course, and for open to all students, and that's wonderful too. So I'm basically here to change directions, as I told Brett before the meeting, from suggestions to affirmation. So keep up the good work. Congratulations, and I'm glad I could speak to you this evening. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Which brings us to our communications portion of the meeting, and we have our student school advisor and Clara Valentine. Come on up.
And we saw your name on that girls soccer list, by the way. Congratulations.
Is it our? Oh. Hi everyone, great to see you all again. And in the past month at FHS, winter sports teams are amidst their seasons. There has been a great red zone presence at many of the hockey, basketball, and even some wrestling matches, so everyone is in a cheering spirit. Also, Mary Kate Renicki is an indoor track athlete, and she set a new school record twice for the girls' 55 meter in the span of 7 days. She went from a 7.43 to 7.38, both are which they're insane. It's crazy. I used to run track. It's crazy. Yeah, 7 seconds. She is incredible. Next, I'm in our Model UN Club, which is Mali United Nations. Basically, you go to debate-like conferences, but argue from a political stance of a country that you are assigned to. So we've just had the amazing opportunity, and for the past years we have, to attend the Syracuse University Conference. This was about 2 weeks ago, and it's always the best time. We stay overnight in Syracuse and have the privilege of attending 2 days of 10-hour conferences, which sounds like a lot, but we learn so much, it's well worth the time. And I just want to say that on behalf of me and the club and all the students who participate, we are so grateful for this opportunity, and it really, really helps to broaden our perspective and enhance our education. We also had our National Honor Society annual induction 2 weeks ago, and 60 new members from junior and senior classes were inducted based on the volunteering in the community, their impact on Fairport, and a high grade point overall average. We are so proud of these students and excited to see what they will do to impact NHS. In terms of midterms, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this year's schedule, but in case you aren't, we've had this week and then Thursday and Friday of last week to take midterms. We don't have the week off like we usually did. Rather, we just come into school every day, and then if a class decides to give a midterm, we will only take it for 40 minutes per day. For example, most math classes, with the exception of 1 or 2, gave their midterms last Thursday and Friday. So I went to school like normal, and then when third period hit, I got to sit down for 40 minutes and take that. Went home, got to study, and took the second half on Friday. And then this week, many classes, like physics, bio, and most AP/honors classes, are doing their midterms over a few days as well. A few upsides and downsides always come with change, but between the normal midterm week from last year and then this year, I haven't quite decided on what side I'm on. But I do know that this year there are a lot of regulations that have been put into place to make it easier on the students, because normally you'd think you'd prefer the first option. But it's actually good what we have going. So if you're a teacher who's not giving a midterm, they were asked and have been to stop teaching new content during the week, which has been really, really helpful for me and my peers, seeing as nobody wants to go from a first period class and then take a midterm. For example, I'm in AP English Literature, and this week we actually are just watching a documentary. We don't have any homework, and it's a really great refresher, lets me clear my minds, and I get to focus on the midterms. We also have finals going on for those semester-long classes, so it's definitely a lot, but I think that the way that it's managed has been great. In addition, none of the midterms are designed to weigh too much. It used to be a big percentage of your grade, but they've brought it down a lot now, and there's a curve, so it's more like a cumulative assessment that doesn't hold too much weight. But that's enough of the testing talk. 2 weeks ago, we started selling tickets for our snowball dance that senior class officers decided to invent this year. We were originally hoping to have a homecoming dance, but we wanted it to be low budget enough where we didn't have to pay for a venue and we could have it in the gym. The homecoming dance, the gym wasn't ready, and now it's ready and it looks amazing. So it's going to be February 10th, and it's going to be snowball themed. It's actually a school-wide dance, and we have sold 500 tickets, which was our maximum capacity, and they were at such a low price that it's very affordable for everyone. And we honestly sold way more tickets than we expected, so we have a lot of money left over for the extra decorations. You'll see in February there'll be a lot of paper snowflakes, Christmas trees, all of it will be in the gym. Additionally, seniors have been vigorously applying for this year's Dollars for Scholars scholarships, with over 200 people applying. Even amongst all the testing being right near the due date for the scholarships, teachers have been writing countless recommendations, and students have been filling out more applications than they did for colleges. It is inspiring to see this many seniors put in so much hard work at such a busy time of the year. And during last Friday's boys basketball game, girls and boys volleyball were honored for their state championship win with a walkout onto the court to a round of applause from parents, teachers, and our student section. We also have our annual Brotherhood Sisterhood Care Week coming up in March, I believe, and students were asked a few weeks ago to start thinking about submitting an application to be our student speaker at this year's Family Talk. This is a great opportunity for all students who are considering applying seeing as they can share their stories of how Fairport has made a difference on them and how they've made a difference on Fairport. I'm really excited to hear what the elected student and staff speakers have to say. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Clara. That's a great information. Okay, and I am up next with our president's report. I'm gonna try to keep it shortish. Thankfully, the days are starting to get longer in terms of sunlight. It has been quite gloomy lately, but now we have snow, yay. Since last time we met, there have been many activities across the district. I think Clara really did a great overview of what has been going on. Last Monday, we were off for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And as a parent and board member, I was able to see lots of activities and assignments that were completed across the district. Clara mentioned this week for our high school students, they're doing midterms. It does look a little different this year. And Friday, our teachers will have the opportunity to grade. Just as a reminder, this is only for 9th through 12th. I know that question has been out there quite a bit. Middle school and elementary do have school on Friday. I can't believe that we're already at the mid-year point, to be honest. The year has gone quite quickly. January has been a very busy month for our board members. We've had a number of committee meetings. I think we may have mentioned it before, but during our workshop, we have a legislative breakfast taking place the first Saturday in February, so we've been preparing for that. And I think almost all of us will be there to talk to our representatives, which is very important. We also had the opportunity to visit Dudley Elementary School last Friday and the transportation department. So two vastly different locations, but the board had a really nice time learning and listening to folks at both the transportation department and at Dudley Elementary School. It was amazing to see so many of the programs that we talk about when we're at these meetings actually being in place and people doing it. For example, the science of reading and lots of opportunities to see discourse, so students talking and sharing ideas. One of my highlights was we were able to see another UPK classroom in action and just amazing, and it's wonderful to see those youngest learners doing what they do every day. Personally, my favorite part of the Dudley trip was seeing the mini golf course set up for PE. Definitely not something that I had growing up, and we all found out that the mini golf course was purchased by the district, and it travels. So each of our elementary buildings gets to participate in that. And the amount of conversation going on in terms of angles and way more than just mini golf. So thank you to Dudley for hosting us and the transportation department. And I'm going to pass it on to Brett.
Thank you very much. Wow. 13 teams, 75% of our student athletes receiving 90% or greater as a GPA. And not only that, are they experiencing success on the playing field, representing with so much class, style, and pride. They're getting it done in the classroom. High expectations that will definitely pay dividends. Congratulations to our student athletes, and they give us so much reason to celebrate and so much community pride, so we're grateful. We're also grateful for this initiative, this passion, this thing that's always been in the DNA of who we are as a community. This Board of Education has always put students in position to have voice, and student voice is central to what we try to accomplish throughout all of our programming, giving them an opportunity to shine and grow as individuals, and this month's Bright Spot is focused on student voice.
It's something you wouldn't expect to see inside an elementary school, but you will find it in Northside Cafeteria. This seascape is the brainchild of student council representatives. They put their heads together and share their ideas, and watch them become a reality.
It felt really good because you could see our ideas being they actually came to life. We could see it actually happen after we discussed it, and it made us feel really good because we kind of felt like valued and more important that we can make these big decisions.
I mean, I feel like everyone has to be special in their own way, so I feel like everyone should at least get a chance like I did.
It was really nice because I always had ideas I wanted, but I never really got to tell anybody. And so it was really nice to be able to actually have ideas and have it come true.
Student agency comes in all shapes, from advocacy for exciting upgrades to advocacy for the Fairport values of care. If you look, you'll find it. Student council reps at Joanna Perrin are ready to help their peers feel welcome, safe, and empowered with a bulletin board of positive thoughts.
It's really important for students to have a voice because they need to know what they're feeling on the inside, and if they don't get a voice, then nobody can help them. And we want people to have a voice, and all the other student council members thinks that it should be a good idea to help other people find their voice from inside.
I think I'm going to keep doing student council up through high school because this way I can sort of have a voice in the decisions that are made by the school and help raise money for important causes and give people a boost when they're feeling down.
Yeah, I know. Yes. Yeah, that is.
Pitch, research, interview, write, publish. The essential steps Fairport High School journalism students follow to dig deep into what matters to their school and their peers. They're learning to be stewards of the Fairport story.
I think journalism teaches students to look critically at different issues and examine different aspects that they might not think about and learn how to take into account different perspectives when looking at an issue. And I think the Lampion is especially great because it's student-led.
Well, I was really interested in the aspect of being able to research topics and dive into them more than I would normally. It gives me an excuse to analyze things, which I already enjoy doing in my time. And then also once I found out you could get your articles in the Lampion, I thought that was fun to maybe write things that students would enjoy reading.
I think when it comes to certain school issues or school events, I think the perspective on something like that a student would have would be very different from what a teacher or an administrator would have. For a student to tell that story and for the voices shared in interviews and quotes to be from students kind of gives readers and gives people who aren't really living in it a real sense of what it's like.
From the pages of the newspaper to the airwaves on Raider Radio, Fairport students have a lot to share with the world, and they aren't wasting any time.
The best in alternative music since 1985. This is the only station that matters. 90.5 FM, WBER Rochester, broadcasting live from Raider Radio at Fairport High School.
We're going to be the next generation of just people in the community. It's important for us to be heard now so that when we're present and applying for jobs, applying for leadership positions, that people know who we are and what we've done before. And it's really cool to get a jump start on that in high school, whether it's through a school club or the school newspaper, just to show that you're here in this school and that your voice matters and that you care to show that it matters, because every single person in this building leaves a mark on this school.
We encourage students to open their minds, learn new things, become leaders, and most importantly, share their voices. Their stories tell us advocacy matters.
So for me, I don't like to talk in front of people, so I like being able to be a club like the BSU. It's not everyone has to speak up, but you're still still able to voice your opinion in some way or another. And there are many other clubs like MSA and the Dream Club. There are other clubs where they help. Even if you're not a vocal person, you can still be able to voice what you want to say, and have other people who will be there to say it for you.
You know, to be able to do anything is to have courage and to believe in yourself, to have that confidence. So if you're gonna bet on anything, bet on yourself. And that's all I can really say. That's what I do, and I make it through. It got me this far, so that's all I can say.
Thank you once again, Lindsay, your team of one. Really appreciate. I also have to say to the team of educators that are here in this room, and if you work with students, you're an educator. Appreciate behind every great experience is an amazing, caring Fairport educator. So thank you for bringing it to fruition. These events do not occur without our caring and amazing staff, and it happens. This could have been a 3-hour video, and I appreciate you capturing it in 5 minutes, Lindsay. So, student voice again. Just so happens. Before or as we were talking about start times, I was getting emails from students in an 11th grade English class, and I think it was about a persuasive essay. And their topic that they chose was start times, right? And these students were brilliant. They were quoting, focusing on the research, and they were very matter-of-factly and practically speaking on why aligning start times to research would be a good thing for Fairport. Let's face it. Being a teenager can be very stressful. More sleep would prepare them and help us manage the stressors of life and daily activities. Now, if we don't have our sleep, even adults struggle with the stressors of life. By giving students more time to sleep each night, we'll have the opportunity to improve both in and out of the classroom performances and students' mental health. Our students are keenly aware of how mental health and being well rested are aligned. And the last one there, this causes me to be in bed around 11. On those days, I barely get 7 hours of sleep. This is a student athlete speaking. And again, we just heard from Mr. Killian about the commitment and sacrifices they make, but adding more rest time would definitely support many of our students who are not just in athletics, but in the arts as well. And I know some of family members are taking their kids to and from practices and rehearsals and so on. So yeah, musicals and plays. It's a big part of what we do here. But our students are keyed into this. The Lampion, I was fortunate enough to be interviewed by a student, and there'll be an article on sleep time. So this coincides wonderfully with what the board's trying to accomplish. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to share that and speak on behalf of some of our students who feel strongly about this very topic. And it's driven by research. It's driven by the right principles. It's not like what do we think and feel and wonder. This is directly correlated to what the science says, and we are going to be very thoughtful moving forward, understanding the impact on students, on Fairport Central School District families. We had one community member talk about, I think that was well put, there's going to be hardships for some families, and how can we respond as a community to support before school, after school care. It's going to help us reflect upon ways that we're supporting our families, because we do ultimately know that it's good for our students. There are definitely transportation components to this. We also need to be fiscally responsible as well, making sure that we're doing it in a way that meets the community's fiscal expectations. It will impact programming because there's only so many hours in the day, and I think that's going to be helpful for students as they need to prioritize what's important to them, because we can't get it all done, as we all find out as adults. Interscholastic activities. I don't want to just say athletics, but it's interscholastic activities, from the arts to the athletics. Now we also have students who work after school. So lots to study, lots of information. Please stay tuned. We're going to be reaching out directly through Parent Square to get more feedback from our community, asking them about some of their concerns, more so to get a larger sample size. So thank you for having that comment period, and thank you, board, for continuing to explore this idea and all the different ways that we could bring this to fruition. That's not there. I don't know how that got there. I'll go back to that. Remember, it's the third slide. Got out of order, but I'm nimble here today for some reason. The consolidation of Minerva DeLand and Fairport High School. We're going to be speaking more and more about this as we move through the year into the next school year and so on. Very generally speaking, our expectation, the board's expectation, the goal is to successfully relocate 9th grade students from Minerva DeLand to Fairport High School effective September 1st, 2026. That means if you're a 6th grader today, you will be the first class in 9th grade. That's 2026. That will be the 2026-27 school year. Right now, and again, this is early on in the plan, we see 6 focal points of the consolidation plan. It's student life. Talk about student voice, getting students involved, starting to bring that class together, getting input from the people that are here living in Fairport High School and at Minerva DeLand and at the middle school where the impact will occur, asking them what they need to be successful as the consolidation occurs. Staffing implications, we need to be thoughtful in how we analyze and communicate staffing analysis, expectations, and that will be a central pillar. Scheduling and teaching assignments, curriculum and programming, communicating with our caregivers and having parent engagement and community engagement, because it's just not happening within the walls of our schools, it's happening to our entire community. So we'll be communicating with our partners. So this is how it's starting to form up, these pillars, as if you will, and I look forward to developing them in the coming months. Speaking about the budget and the budget season, Mr. Stevens is going to take some time to talk about highlights of the executive budget, and then I'll go backwards and then forward and backwards to my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Provenzano. So up on the screen, you can see kind of a quick highlight of the executive's budget proposal. It's a governor's budget. This is the time of the year that we receive the initial proposal, and then it goes through, a process of advocacy, legislative review until the budget is set by the state. If it's an on-time budget, April 1st, but sometimes can go into April a little bit. So overall, a couple of the highlights you can see up on the screen. It calls for an $825 million increase to school aid in 24-25. It's about a 2.4% increase. $507 million is related to foundation aid. So it's about a 2.1% increase in foundation aid. If you recall, in past years, we saw some larger increases in foundation aid because of the phase-in of fully funding foundation aid. So a little smaller increase than we've seen in years past. So a couple of significant revisions to the foundation aid formula. One, there's a proposal to reduce the inflation factor within the formula from about 4% of what the under current law would drive down to around 2% as a whole. And what that does is it really reduces the increase in foundation aid that school districts would have seen. And you can see that's about a $250 million increase to the increase in foundation aid. Also impacts future year projected foundation aid increases. So a formula that was established is now being proposed to be changed, which will make it more challenging for districts to continue to project out foundation aid increases over the years. Another piece that eliminates safe harmless. So for some school districts, there is a safe harmless built into the current law that once the formula for foundation aid was running according to law, that districts would be held harmless should that formula have driven a reduction in foundation aid. And foundation aid, the formula has multiple factors into it. It has wealth factors, it has enrollment factors. So there are some districts across the state that actually are receiving more than what the formula does provide for. So they're proposing to eliminate safe harmless, which will ultimately have an impact on school districts for 24-25 of about $160 million. Impacts about 45% of districts in the state. It's being proposed that there is a transition adjustment so that it's not a full impact in 1 year, but there would be some districts, according to the proposal, that would have a reduction in foundation aid. For us, for Fairport, you can see up above, it's about or next looking here, it's about a $151,000 increase to foundation aid for Fairport, about a 0.5% increase. That's next here on the bulleted list. Back in November, that increase would have been over $600,000 based on current law and the formula. Our expense-based aids, good news with that is they're expense-based aids. There's no proposal to change the formula for expense-based aids. That has been something in the past that we've seen in the governor's proposal, proposal to change the formula of how those aids are driven. There is no proposal here. They're proposed to fully fund according to the formulas. This amounts to about a $468,000 increase for Fairport. And one of the key things that you notice for any school district in the state, when these state aid runs come out, there has to be some analysis of the state aid runs themselves, because Some of the figures are based on budget figures and projections that are pulled from our state aid submission data that school districts do in the fall. And historically, in time, there have been governor proposals that have proposed to freeze the amount of aid schools would given or cap it at the governor's proposal or actual expenses, whichever is less. So school districts always have been very cautious to project a little bit higher to ensure we don't have that danger of our aid being capped at this initial figure coming out. So we do analysis in district, and we take a look at the transportation aid, BOCES aid, building aid, our high cost aid for both our public high cost, our private high cost aid, and our instructional materials. And we look at our expenses we anticipate. We look at current year aid to help us project out future year aid for the following year's budget. So that's where we come up with a figure. We are a little asterisk here. We're still in the process of reviewing building aid, but that will only coincide with any of the new debt we have coming on. So it'll help support the new debt payments for the 2019 capital improvement project, because we have some renewals of short-term borrowing, potentially going to long-term on some pieces, and then we're looking at lining up the state building aid to be received from that piece. So that's a quick summary, a little longer than Brett's first 10 slides he already went through.
But I think anything I could do wouldn't have done it justice, because there's lots of context here. And from our perspective, the bottom line is the $151,000 or 0.5% increase of foundation aid, and I'm really proud of the fact that the board in October, we start talking about this in August and September. What are our budget goals? That really helps us. My team has been working with these goals for the past several months, so that helps as we get into the season, that the board has really prioritized the school improvement initiatives that are tied to our strategic plan. And that means our UPK programming needs to continue to grow. You're going to hear us talking about how we can support it using the dollars that are allocated and the grants that we're trying to continue to go after to minimize the impact on the general fund. Making sure that we take our commitment to multi-tier systems of support. That's our commitment to literacy, curriculum alignment, making sure our social emotional well-being of our students is all aligned, and the board is making that a priority as we build the budget. And of course, what we do here in Fairport that's so special is equity, making sure that students have access to a comprehensive programming. And if you were at workshops earlier, board members were talking about how can we make sure all kids, if they want to take a SUPA or an AP class, have the resources to do that. And I'm really proud that that's built in there, all while being fiscally responsible, making sure that not only do we focus on being responsible today, but sustainable for the future. That's part of the budget goal. And investing in modern, environmentally sustainable and safe facilities. We've heard continually from our community members, our staff, stakeholders as well. This is a priority, and the board has made it a budget goal moving forward. And I'm really grateful for this direction. We also asked the community, our staff in a thought exchange, what is tops on their mind? And it pretty much, making sure that the right supports are in place, making sure that class sizes continue to stay in ranges that promote opportunities for those important connections to be made in a developmentally appropriate way. Our community speaks to having high academic expectations, making sure that we're doing all we can to align our curriculums so our students, no matter what school they go to, that they're getting a high quality, challenging, and focused curriculum that helps them be the best person that they could be. So we're continuing to have these thought exchanges open up through Wednesday. Here is a way to get to the thought exchange. And again, this information will be shared to the community on January 31st. That's where we'll be talking about the budget. I didn't think I was going to be able to find it. Wow. That will be the budget meeting. We'll have everyone for the staff in the afternoon, and in the evening it will be broadcast on our YouTube channel. And then you'll see in February there's 2 dates that the board's going to be meeting on the non-instructional budget. And then in March, you'll see March 7th and March 19th. That's when the instructional budget. Budget just doesn't show up. on May 31st. There's multiple different opportunities to interact with it, and it's one of my favorite times of the year because it helps us define and tell our story. It's our Fairport narrative, and the budget helps bring that to life. All the way through April, where the board will adopt a budget at the April 16th board meeting, and on May 7th there'll be a public hearing on the budget, and many opportunities to interact and learn and share with the community how we can invest in our students and the future here in Fairport for May 21st. The board vote and board of education election will occur. That's all I have. I'm really grateful for all the great things that we do, and I'm looking forward to the next several months. Talking about some pretty important, as I like to say, big rocks that we're lifting here in our district, and it's because of the focused leadership from the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, next we have board member committee reports. So as I mentioned earlier, we've been busy. All of us are on a variety of committees, and so if you would like to share, I guess let me know, and then we'll let others go. Anyone?
I can talk.
Yep.
This month, the Wellness Committee met. We welcomed some new committee members, so we did a little bit of a recap on some things that we had been discussing the previous month. We talked about the results of the YRBS survey and talking about some of the results that were found there on substance abuse, vaping, drug use, mental health issues, social media. All this has been discussed before, but we just really recapped it and then talked about how we're going to get that information out to the community. We also reviewed again some information for our transgender and gender expansive students, current practices that we have in the school, how to support them emotionally, socially, and then also with some administrative issues that come with if a student wants to change their name, how do we do that? How do we support the student and support the parents and make sure that they have the right information as they move forward with college applications, FAFSA forms, work permits, and how does that name appear in the yearbook and on diplomas. And then our last bit of information that we shared was moving forward, we're going to be looking at the code of conduct again this year, talking about some things around cell phone use in schools and putting together surveys for both teachers, parents, and students, and really taking a look at that and seeing how we can improve and move forward with it.
Thanks, Nicole. Anyone else want to share out?
I can happy to share as everybody, unless anybody else wants to go. So 2 committee reports, labor relations, which Pete and I were saying, it's usually labor relations is like the day after our meeting, so we never really get to share. But I will just, we actually had it last Wednesday, so Pete and myself and Doug were there. A really great meeting that focused on taking us through the timeline of the negotiation process with the collective bargaining units. It just gave us some really great best practices to think about, how to implement them so that we can continue our really good positive relationship with all those that we work with in the district. A really good refresher for all of us, probably mainly me, who may not be as familiar with the process and see it from beginning to end, but just a really good informative event. So then second, we had a really special information exchange on one of those really windy evenings at the Rochester Museum and Science Center. And I'm so glad I went. It was like one of those nights where like you didn't want to leave because it was dark. You just want to see it. But I'm so glad I went. It was just absolutely incredible. As probably everyone's aware, we are having a solar eclipse coming right through Rochester on April 8th, obviously 2024. The energy, the information that was shared was just absolutely incredible. I can't do justice to all the information that Dan Schneiderman this is obviously like as he shared, like this is bigger than his children. Like having, like he was just so excited. This is his moment. He is pretty much been calling the meteorologist every single day, seeing what the weather forecast is going to be. But it's really exciting. He thanked all the districts for extending our spring break by a day. As you know, our spring break will extend through Monday. And when asked why, it's actually because the eclipse will be happening right from 2:07 to 3:22. And as he said, he doesn't want any child left on the school bus when this happens. Not to mention the traffic in Rochester will be just quite kick. I mean, people are going to be coming to Rochester, Rochester, New York for this. He also shared some local areas for best viewing, and not surprisingly, the Parrington Rec Center is one of the number ones on the list. They are hosting a total eclipse of the park. So yes, we're going to hear that song a whole lot in the next 3 months. So just know that it's going to be on repeat. So, get your glasses. They also shared the museum has bought 500,000 pairs of glasses because they want to make sure that every school is able to give them to their students. So he is so all in. I was so excited. At first I was like, oh, it's the eclipse. But yeah, it's exciting. And just to know that the next time it comes through Rochester will be the year 2144. So put it on your calendar. It's
Jen,
coming. It's exciting.
Don't forget that the NASA Hunch Club is also selling eclipse glasses for $2 a piece.
So that's 50 cents cheaper than the museum.
Ooh.
So
yeah, and you keep the money in house, though. Just
so
keep
go,
that in mind as everybody's planning forward for that.
So with that, I was curious what kind of programs Fairport was going to be doing to get kids excited. So
There's a curriculum being written or a lesson at the middle school, and I know that will be shared throughout the middle school and throughout our school community. We're going to be able to purchase glasses to correctly view and use.
Yes.
So,
well, and our Dudley kiddo shared quite quickly that Space Day, the day before spring break starts, is Space Day, and it is because for the eclipse. So I was really impressed.
We will have a thorough report on all the great things that are happening in our district.
Very exciting.
I see it now. I could see it.
I also think the NASA Hunch Club is being tapped to be some docents, maybe at the total eclipse of the park. Yeah, I think they're going to be out there, kind of telling people what to expect and what's going on up there. So
yeah. It's going to bring a new meaning to Bright Spot.
It's not a bright spot. It's literally the opposite of a bright spot.
No, well, it is, but yeah, exactly. It's a new meaning. So, really exciting.
Thanks. Okay. So next up, we have the treasurer and investment update. I know, Matt, you spoke before, but you're back.
Yes, exciting stuff.
Yeah, very exciting.
So tonight we have the treasurer investment update for the month of November of 23. For the general fund, we had a beginning cash balance of $122.5 million, receipts for the month of $3.2 million, and disbursements of $14.1 million for an ending cash balance of $111.6 million. Of the $111 million, approximately $110.9 million is invested in a mix of the insured cash sweep, CDs, CDARS, and T-bill accounts. As it relates to timing throughout the fiscal year for November, right on track, expense-wise, similar to prior year, around $47 million spent. Last year, about $43 million. And we had an incremental increase in the budget, so that kind of holds true in terms of the percent of budget. And then revenues of approximately $96 million received, primarily made up of taxes of about $79 million, and then we're starting to see some state aid payments come in. About $13 million in state aid, and then other main revenues, interest, earnings, and our interfund transfer, which is different than last year to support our debt service. So that is a summary for the month of November of 2023.
Thank you. And we do not have any presentations this month, so we're going to move on to our board discussion and action items. So first we have kind of a, we just wanted to make folks aware, and then we will be doing the formal signature and all that fun in the district office. But Peter, I'm going to hand it to you for a second.
Yeah, this is in accordance to what we had planned back in July, right? And for the quick history, for those who may wonder why, we always had a tradition. It's not in our bylaws necessarily about serving as president for 2 years, and the vice president serves at the same time, kind of learns the ropes and takes over, and it's a good way of spreading leadership and getting new eyes. But we got out of that for various reasons. There really were various reasons that life happened to different people, and we're trying to get back to that. And so back in July, we mentioned I would start the year as vice president, and for a half year, and in January, step down. And so I'd like to tender that resignation today and formally nominate, and sorry, we do have to do this by motion, but formally nominate Mary Caitlin White to be vice president of the board. Somebody want to second that?
Yep. Oh, okay. Yep. Brian is a second. And I think you kind of explained it, so I don't know that we have a discussion. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. 7-0. So at our next meeting, Mary Caitlin will have her official title. Thank you. Okay, so we did talk a little bit earlier during our public comments, but we did want to have some time for some discussion, kind of reactions from the board on the start time. So we don't have an action here, but just a discussion on the school start times. And I know we can pull up the past workshop if we need to information. So I don't know, does anyone have any immediate comments or discussion?
I just, the comment from the elementary school, well, first of all, thank you to our two speakers. We don't often get a lot of public speakers, and it's really nice. And it was so Fairport when you said, we got to wrap those elementary parents in love, and then reading the comments from our students where the one student said, this won't impact me, I know I'll be gone. It's just such a Fairport way of looking at it, like just the wrapping everybody in love. But one thing did strike me, the talking about the elementary schools at the start and finish and lining those up because of the importance we do place on the collaboration across buildings, right? So we have our elementary schools are all using expressions for math, they're using 95%, wit and wisdom, and that common planning time. With the proposed third option, the elementaries would still be offset how it currently is with JA earlier. Yeah. But whichever building it is, but the elementary would still be offset. So how do we address that, common planning? And I don't know if there's the right answer, but keeping that at the forefront if we aren't able to afford putting the 4 elementaries because of the number of students.
So that was studied extensively, and it was 8 years ago, and it was studied extensively again. It would be cost prohibited if we were, went to 3 tiers. We are looking, based upon feedback that I received at the workshop, to maybe tweak who's in that second tier with the middle schools. If you put Brooks Hill with that central group, with that middle group, would that help buses get to where they need to go at the end of the day quicker, which would help with efficiency with the route. So we are looking at ways to maximize that, but otherwise having a 3-tier system would cost the district. We would need more.
Moving to a 2-tier.
I'm sorry? Yeah, 2-tier, excuse me, 2-tier, my fault, 2-tier. When you put if you put the elementary all in 1 tier, you need 5 additional more buses. And then you would need more drivers to facilitate the transporting of students. And that doesn't mean we're not going to keep trying it, but as we continue to look at and explore options, we have to pick a lane, if you will, and we need to make a decision on how can we do this in an efficient way, in a way that I think maximizes or lessens the impact.
Can I ask a follow-up question with that? Because the other options that I see in the study that you presented were 2-tier options, but I think the person writing in was asking about still having a 3-tier option, but getting all of the elementary schools at the same time. And one thing that they did mention was the reducing ridership by increasing the distance. I think I asked the transportation department last week, and they said currently if you live within a quarter mile of as an elementary school student, you walk or if it's within a half mile for older students. So have we looked at if we increase that walking distance a little bit, would we be able to still have 3 tiers but just put all the elementary schools at the same time?
We've looked at that, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, any changes to our bus stops and routing would require community approval.
Yeah, the distance. So so right now it's policy that
Yeah,
K
this
through
is
6 is a quarter mile, which actually even contradicts our current building structure, because now with 6-8 being at the middle school, the K6 is still, that 6th grade is still driven by that quarter mile, and then 7-12 is the half mile. If the board is looking to change those distances, that would require a community vote.
Yeah. I guess I'm just kind of curious, you know, like say changing it to 0.75 miles would suddenly make it so we could have 3 tiers and the elementary schools together. Is that worth looking into?
I think that would be a question. We'd have to talk with the consultants.
I think we could come up with an answer, right? Then adds the other step is then could we get it approved from the community?
Right. Yeah, like just to see, you know, if we do want the elementary schools on the same schedule, just to know, like, how big of a change would that have to be in our walking distance? Like, how big of an ask?
How many
would
people
be?
would that affect? That's,
Yeah, and so I'm just kind of curious.
I think that's part of the reason why the board put in a buffer, like, so it's not coming out with a decision, so we can try to do things in a timely, cost-effective way. So
Yeah, so I think that'd be interesting information to get just in response to that staff member's input.
Well, and to draw the point on the expenses, you mentioned the more drivers and more buses, and a reminder that when we are implementing this, those are going to be 5 new electric buses, according to state mandate. And we were just talking about this at our workshop. So, given where we are, that's not just 5 additional buses that, you know, what we pay now. It's 5 times as much. So the cost goes up exponentially because of that. So.
And I think it's that conversation, if it is cost prohibitive and it's, you know, we already know it's very difficult to find drivers, what are those creative solutions if we want that inter-building collaboration? And I know we come up with some amazing, you know, day 184 options and different things like that. So how do we take sorry. You know what I mean? Yeah. But how do we take that creative lens? And we're hearing from our teachers that they want that opportunity to collaborate and make sure we're making it happen.
Aspirationally, we did this once. I'm not quite sure I want to use the word shame, but sadly we didn't make it, right? Because we studied it, it was expensive, but it's the right thing to do for students. And I can never say that phrase without hearing Joyce, right?
Yeah.
And she's not on the board, but that's our soul. It's not our soul. It's one of our top priorities and responsibilities is to do what's best for students. As our speaker pointed out, there's not a debate on this, right? The studies are very clear. This is what's best for students. And so that's our primary consideration. We know there will be some challenges to families. That's not our primary consideration necessarily, and that sounds crass, and I don't mean to be that, but this is the weight of the board, right? This is the weight of the board. So you make the decision, and then the creative ways will come about. I do have all confidence in human nature, human beings, to find a solution once that decision's made. So we need to, in my opinion, we need to make that decision so that we can work towards the solution, finding whatever it is. It may mean we have to go out to vote. I do find it a quirk of state law that we can reduce the busing system, but once we do that, we have to go back to the community to increase it back to what state law allows, because the state law does allow us to go to a mile. But we went less than that because we're serving our community well, we think, and could be tough to get some people to vote to say no. I want you to pick up my, and so that would be an uphill battle.
That was the reason why that didn't happen 8 years ago.
We thought we couldn't get that vote to occur. But, you know, I think
that's
we
one of the
make the
advantages
decisions.
that we're starting so far in advance, because I agree, like, you know, we know that we want this to happen and we want it to happen for the merger, and we have this time to see how many of the questions we can answer ahead of time so that we are prepared the first time and not making the change and then making adjustment after adjustment after adjustment afterward.
Yeah, but I would advocate we do it and we figure it out because we have the time to do that.
Yeah. Have we, as far as the after school care, have we spoken with our community partners? Like, I know the Parent and Rec Center, they plan very far in advance what their capacity is. Like, have we communicated to our community partners that we're hoping to make this happen in 2026 so they can be partners in the creative problem solving of
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but there, as per my slide was speaking to, like, we need to reach out to them, and it's going to impact those community partners before school, after school care.
Yeah.
What's going to happen inside our buildings, and does it add another budget line for the district? So those are the things that, you know, as if and when the board makes that decision, those are the next pieces in the planning.
Timeline wise, when do we need to make this call for 2026? Like what, or not just like what's the dead last day, like aspirationally planning wise, what is the best
I made a recommendation in a report a couple weeks ago by September 1st, so families have time to.
I guess my question on that recommendation is, will we be picking one of the options that were in there, like the exact times, or is that we're going to be changing the start time, and then in the next 2 years from September 24 to whenever, probably 25,
I guess that depends. That depends. I mean, you know, what we have and what we learn from our community and what their expectations and hopes are, the more studying that we do, the more that impacts the timeline. Like, for example, if the board does want me to conduct a study on bus stop distance and walkers, and if we had to adjust bus stops, I'd have to go back to the team and understand what that does to the timeline. Does that take it out to sometime in the middle of the fall? Maybe it's the spring? I don't know what it would entail. So that's what we'd have to assess. But if it was like, hey, we're doing this and we're going to pick a tier, that becomes clear because we have pieces.
Right.
And I think since I came up with this question in my mind, and it's become clearer as people have shared, but I think some questions from the community has been, is this something that we are all voting on, or is this something that a board is making the decision? And I think it's important to realize that we absolutely want as much input as we can have, so that when we make this decision, we do have the community's input. But I think just thinking about a couple of Decembers ago, we do want to make it clear that this is a decision made by the board, but after careful consideration and thought from the community. Yes. So
I think my preference would be that by September, when we announce or make formal the decision or make the decision, that we would have a much better idea on the tiers, preferably be able to make that decision then, because that gives us that full year to problem solve it. Because again, I think as a board, it's not so much about if it's happening, but making it happen
It is
well.
happening, and it would be a board
and so
decision.
just making sure we have that time of this, what the tiers will be. Now tell us all the potential problems so we can solve as many of them as we can beforehand.
I think that's one thing that I think we would like to hear from community members is, where are your pressure points? Where are the problem points? So that so that we can start coming up with these creative solutions, these problem solving, or keeping these things in mind as we pick tiers.
Charging the district with
coming
up with those creative solutions.
But just seeing the student feedback, and I was thinking about this today, about the sleep recommendations that Mr. Costanza, you were pointing out. Is it Dr. Costanza? I'm sorry. Okay. But the student, Brett, that you had, one of the students you had in your presentation, Erica, making the great point that you have a swim meet or some other after school activity, you're not getting home until 8:30, and if school starts at 7:25, to get the amount of sleep that a kiddo that age needs, they would get home from a swim meet and go to bed. Like, that's it. No homework, no dinner, no wind down. That's have a high schooler tell me that, if that's reasonable, right? And so, just seeing stories like that, aligning with what the research is telling us, and kind of what I think parents know and understand about that, and hearing that from a student is so powerful.
Paralysis by analysis, and that's what's coming to my mind, is because we could split the hairs, we could try to get it just so, but I think community members have spoken about the research. The committee did the research 8 years ago. The board was committed to the research, not necessarily about what do people think, feel, and wonder, because I think a community member said here tonight that it's going to create some hardships and it's going to create some disappointments. So that's where, you know, again, picking that lane and saying this is why we're doing it.
Yep.
And you know, we do know that you know, we are going to try to make it as accommodating as possible, but you know, that does mean child care before school or after school for some families. That does mean that we do need to find creative ways to develop coherence amongst the elementaries, so it could just be a two-tier system, if that's even possible. You know, and again, I don't know if that's a feasible approach. Again, then going to the community to vote on that, I think that creates a glitch in the timeline as well.
Right. So I would say, moving forward, as a board, you know, we are, I believe, in agreement that yes, we want to move forward. So we would be charging you moving forward to start meeting with those community partners, right?
Well, I shared a timeline.
Yep.
And I think if I'm like, I don't know if I'm thinking about it correctly, because I was looking at it today with Lindsay. I think our, you know, we do plan on putting a communication out, getting more feedback in a Google form on Parent Square, so just for our families, to get their feedback, to get more questions. We do plan on reporting on that in March, you know, as we go through the workshop and or the budget, whatever the board decides. So we will continue to study tiers to see if we can, you know, find some efficiencies there. So all that, as we move forward, that information is supposed to come forward.
And I'd be interested, I guess, too, before all of the work on the tiers, feedback from both the PTAs as well as the elementary building principals, what that trade-off would look like for them. Would they rather, I mean, we heard from one staff member, but what's more important, the walking distance versus the lining up the times? Because maybe the principals and most of the parents would say, I would rather have an offset time than change the walking distance.
I don't know if it's about that, though, respectfully. I think it's about, again, because if you're going to get a straw poll of what people think.
Right, we're not going to make everybody happy.
Right.
So the goal is we need to have a consistent goal, right, which we know what it is. The tiers, yes, that will be looked into. But again, as many people that might say, I'm okay with my kid walking, could be totally different with people wanting the bus right at their house. So we have to.
I think we need to understand it 100%.
Yes,
and I think that's why we need to be able to understand
right.
How does that impact late bus runs? How does that impact, you know, again, if we need to do some before school, after school care, based upon what we're hearing from our community and try to be responsive.
Right. So I think we're putting that information out. You're going to gather information looking at it. I do not think we need to go back to the drawing board because, again, we're not going to make everybody happy, so we have to figure out what is going to work moving forward. It could be 2 tiers. It will probably be 3, but looking at what makes sense. Exactly.
I'm hearing that loud and clear. That I think we do out to the community. I think our staff members generally are interested in, you know, continuing to get feedback on why can't it be 2. What can we do if we had to make it 2? What, you know.
But logistically, we know that we would need more buses. So, I mean, how much of that consistent time is really going to be used? I mean, I think there's a lot of questions out there.
I apologize. So are we asking the district to look into 2 tiers, or are we moving forward with the 3 tiers and start to gather feedback from parents about, you know, impacts and the community partnership?
I'm getting feedback. I'm hearing that I'm also going to be taking a look at adjusting tiers. For example, taking Brooks Hill and putting them in that middle tier, and taking JA and putting them on that first tier.
But we are in agreement that a 2-tier system would add the bus drivers and the bus routes. And so we do not want to continue.
Because we studied.
I know we're not making a motion or anything, but I'm just trying to clarify.
You're trying to give me
direction. Well, I keep hearing we're going to study the tiers, and in my mind, it's pretty
in
clear.
my mind, it's looking.
Studying the tiers.
Oh, you mean what person is in what?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Or if there's any possibility of having elementary, middle, and high school
aligned.
As we get the feedback back from everybody who's doing the research, is the transportation advisory service people going to be like assisting us interpret the data and come back with a revised?
And I'm just gonna hop in there. So we're not gonna be the people analyzing the data. The district is absolutely gonna be the ones gathering that information and then presenting it to us, similar to what we have here. So yes, I would say, Brett, right? The people who would be implementing it, the district folks, BAT, the transportation department would be the ones that are going to be gathering it, working with Brett and team, and then they're going to come to us with that information so that we can make, you know, a movement forward. So no worries on.
I am going to ask the question though, because I
Okay.
think it's a good question. How many of our kids would be impacted for the mileage in between? You know, and again, just ask the question, not necessarily study it. I don't know if it'd be worth it, but I think that I just want that's a good number to know is how many people are impacted, because you know that's what we're having the discussion, so I can pick up, you know, pearls of wisdom and try to incorporate it into reports, etc.
A dangerous question, and I brought this up to you at one point, but do we look at where students are currently going to school, the catchments?
Yeah, we've studied catchments, and our enrollments are pretty stable. We are continuing to study enrollment in catchments, and that will be in March as well.
Yeah.
There's not many pockets in disproportionate representation in our buildings. They're all pretty level. There are some middle school tweaks from, you know, that we might consider just to balance out, but we're not experiencing, you know, big pockets in our schools.
And I didn't know just because of mileage, you know, from the school. I mean, you've got JA, which goes from the top of Fairport to the bottom of Fairport, you know, so. Not to scare anybody that we're doing anything.
I think these
I'm
are
just,
great
it's just, I'm
questions.
just gonna put that out.
If we're gonna change, we're gonna do a lot at once.
No, and I'm sorry.
I know, that would be a lot, but just
Yeah.
in terms of mileage, I just didn't, you know, miles traveled.
So is there a reason to wait till September 1st? I guess I would advocate, do we write up a resolution and get it passed so the decision's made, and now all effort changes to studying how to make it happen? It gives us 2 years, essentially.
Well, less than 2 years, because parents, families, caregivers need to know who's watching, supporting.
Right, but 26, 27 is 2 school years plus the rest of this one, right?
I mean,
So
my only pushback on that, Pierre, I generally agree, but you know, we've been putting out there and saying as a district that we want more feedback and we want community feedback, and to go from that to we're writing a resolution.
So feedback, just to, because I'm
wanna be careful.
I'm hearing, but feedback in like all these considerations in my report I was speaking of, like, what is the impact on childcare? You know, how is it going to impact student programming? You know, what's going to be the impact on extracurricular activities? You know, community partners, like, because people are working in, you know, after school. So those are the things that we need to get. Like, are people really concerned about those things? That's what I want to know.
Will
Not
that be forthcoming at the March presentation
right.
then?
That's the goal. No.
You have to wait until March.
But I agree. I mean, I think if we have a good idea prior to September 1st, but I think, right, yes. And sorry if I was kind of bossy earlier, but just wanted to.
I do think it would be helpful to be really specific in our headline advertising of like K through 12 start time changes, just so everybody knows like this applies to me, because I think there's a lot in the media about changing high school start times, but I don't know that elementary school people assume that that's going to apply to them. I think it just as a minor point.
Look forward to sharing more information. I really do. I think, you know, it's a great conversation. Thanks for the clarity.
Okay. So next up, I need a motion that the Board of Education approves RFPs as attached, and the board authorizes the superintendent to execute one or more contracts in accordance with the terms of the request for proposal and or determined by the superintendent to best meet the district's needs. Brian? Was it Jan? Yeah. Okay, Jan.
The microphone.
Okay, any discussion?
Nope.
Nope. So yeah, last year we put out a request for proposals for UPKs, and we had quite a, I could think it's a nice response. Yeah, 3. But our hope was that we would be able to add another one, and it looks like we will be. So exciting stuff. It'll be another community agency, and
it's a great community agency.
yeah, all good stuff. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 7-0. Okay, another fun one. I need a motion to approve the attached field trip requests. I think Mary Caitlin.
Second.
Lisa. Any discussion? Yeah, exciting. Okay, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. Okay, so next up we have some policies that need to be retired. So I need a motion that the Board of Education approves retiring the following policies: 2310, 3250, 4210, 4410, 6440, 6460, 6510, 6520, 6530, and 1514.
So moved.
Lisa? Nicole? All in favor? Oh, sorry, yes, discussion.
So just to clear this up, this isn't something we've probably seen on the agenda. So as Sarah and I have been working through the policy committee and stuff, we're more on top of the feedback from Erie to BOCES. So we get a long document and it lists different policies that they'll no longer support, policies that have been wrapped into other policies, so on and so forth. So all of this material is still covered in our contracts with different bargaining units. So like you see health insurance there, workers' compensation, it's all covered in legislation and stuff. So it's just no longer fits into what we need to have as policy. You'll note 1514 public expression. You'll see that under policy first read, it's being wrapped into 1510 so that all of our rules that govern our board meetings are all in one place. No reason to have two policies when we can tighten up one.
Okay. Any other? Okay. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Which brings us to what Mary Caitlin was just referring to. I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the first readings of the following policies: 1510, 2110, 7313, 7314, 7550, 7551. Brian?
Second.
Lisa? I think Mary Caitlin kind of explained, we consolidated some of the policies and we have some additional ones. Lots of work with our policy committee.
It is moving in agreement, and we had some that are pretty large BOCES updates in terms of sexual harassments. And then our suspension policies, we had covered suspension of students with disabilities in both our suspension of students and our students presumed to have a disability for discipline purposes. So those were really divorced from each other. Just to clarify, when we're talking about students with special needs, the impact of the need on the potential behavior. So making sure we're supporting all of our kids.
Thanks. All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Okay, which leads us to policy second reads. I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the second reading of the following policies: 3410, 4220, 7540, 7610, 7611, 11. My eyes. 8360.
So moved.
Mary Caitlin.
Second.
I think Nicole. Okay. Again, these are policies that we had previously approved as first read, so probably not a lot of discussion. All in favor? Aye, 7-0. Leads us to a book approval. I need a motion that the Board of Education approves the following book recommendation as attached. Jan, and second Brian. Okay, all in favor? Aye, 7-0. Okay, and we have up next a motion that the Board of Education approves the intermunicipal cooperation agreement between the Fairport Central School District and Monroe and BOCES as attached, and that is in the public comment as well. I think Nicole?
No.
Oh, yeah. Mary Caitlin? Nicole? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Next we have, I need a motion that the Board of Education accepts the Article 7 tax settlement for 72 Parrington Parkway LLC as attached. And again, this is also in the public content. Brian? Lisa? Questions, comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. Next, I need a motion that the Board of Education accepts the Article 7 tax settlement for Brookdale Senior Living Solutions and Merriweg Fairport LLC as per attached, and again, in the public content. Mary Caitlin and Jan. All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Which leads us to personnel. Okay, instructional is up first, and I need a motion to approve the following instructional staff actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Lisa and Jan. I believe, Brett, there are some retirements in there
Yes.
that we want to recognize.
The non-instructional. Let me make sure if I can find them.
Are-
We have for the non-instructional.
Nope. Is there any instructional?
No, non-instructional.
Oh.
February 1st.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. Next up is non-instructional civil service. Need a motion to approve the following non-instructional and civil service staff actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Brian? Nicole? Okay, and now.
Acknowledge some pretty
Thank
amazing
you.
individuals who have
Yes.
single-handedly helped move our district in great directions. Smiley Alice, here at Fairport High School. Tracy Halls, our district registrar. Doreen McDonough, a guidance secretary at Fairport High School, and Teresa Schaffelberger, who's transportation, individuals who have made an impact being amazing educators and contributing to so many great things that are happening here. It's hard to imagine us moving along without these incredible individuals, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. Which leads us to athletics, and need a motion to approve the following athletic staff actions as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Brian? Lisa? All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Next up, I need a motion to approve the attached memorandums of agreement as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Brian? Jan? All in favor? Aye. 7-0. Which leads us to E, and I need a motion to approve the attached revised benefit contracts of managerial administrative personnel as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
So moved.
Lisa, Mary Caitlin. All in favor? Aye. Up to F, and we need a motion to approve the Board of Education, the motion that the Board of Education approve the attached personnel agreement as recommended by the superintendent of schools. Peter? Brian? All in favor? Aye. And next up, we have our consent calendar. And I need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Lisa? Nicole? All in favor? Aye. which leads us to our executive session. So I need a motion to enter into executive session. We'll be talking about matters pertaining to discipline of particular persons, and we invite the superintendent of schools.
So moved.
Lisa? Brian? All in favor? Aye. And if you are listening at home, we will be entering into our executive session, so we'll stop streaming and we'll just re-enter to close out the meeting. So there will not be any more recording or meeting after that. Hope everybody has a great night and hope to see you at our budget meetings on January 31st.